roaming around your garden, geese in fresh waters, monkeys in the jungles, enjoying a banana without a care in the world. Today I'm going to highlight for you 4 major issues by women against animal laboratory experimentation. I myself, a dog owner. I did brief research on how animals are selected for pet stores, to be sold at pet stores. And upon looking for that information, I came upon information about animal laboratory experimentation. For most of us, a dog is usually a friend, a faithful, friendly, loving animal that runs around our yard playing fetch or sits with us to keep us company. However, it is rare for us to think about these animals that they actually leave a cruel and suffer throughout life. In animal testing, millions of animals are used annually. They are abused and also experience stress while in captivity. Animal testing has been costly, unreliable, and dangerous. There are millions of animals every year. Some die during There are millions of animals used every year. Some die during experiments, but laboratories are still able to acquire more animals. The Humane Society of the United States says that about 25 million animals are used annually. Unfortunately, there is no accurate or comprehensive figure on how many animals are used and for what they are used for. The majority of animals used in experiments are euthanized, which means that they are allowed to die or killed during or after the experiment. At times, their organs become unusable, and they should get rid of the animal. There are no accurate statistics on how many animals are killed in laboratories every year. The majority of animals are bred specifically for experiments. Some are bought through ads, other sources, and from pounds or shelters. Some states require that these pounds hand over animals to laboratories in what is called a pound seizure. Other states prohibit them from grabbing animals, and some states don't have laws against that at all. In this slide, a poll was taken by AnimalLiberation.com, and it shows that people were asked if they approved of a new drug and knowing how it would affect mice. 73% of the people would approve if the mouse was not in pain, and the same people, 46% of the people would approve if the mouse was in pain, and then 48% of the same people would approve that if the mouse would die. Animals experience stress and are abused during captivity. Jonathan Balcom, a research consultant for Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, authored a report finding that physiological stress levels go up among animals that are being experimented on. According to the group, experimented animals that are being picked up and held briefly show signs of stress, racing pulse, and a spike in blood pressure. I'm going to show you guys an experiment. It's called the flower pot technique. In this technique, you can see the mouse is centered on a cup surrounded by water. He's being deprived of sleep. If he does fall asleep, either his body or his head will dip into the water, which will wake him up. Animals that have been experimented on are just thrown into cages, isolated from companionship, and show fear and misery. Animal testing is costly. Since the conquest of Cancer Act in 1971, Americans have spent more than $200 billion through donations, taxes, and funding. In August of 2010, Senator John McCain released a report that showed that a research laboratory in North Carolina was spending $71,000 on injecting cocaine into primates. Animal testing is unreliable and dangerous. Richard Klausner from NCI, which stands for National Cancer Institute, observed that cancer has been cured on mice, but not on humans. Also, that cancer-causing chemicals on mice would not transfer over to rats. This slide, it shows that it's a pie chart showing that many studies have been shown that medicine has been correctly worked on animals, does not always work on humans. about 5 to 25% of the time. The other 75%, it doesn't work directly onto humans. There is an argument that animals are fairly poor substitutes for humans, and that some compounds that work that cause no harm to a monkey can cause harm to a human. This is particularly the case for drugs that interact with the complex human immune system, like the anti-inflammatory drug that caused major organ failure in 6 men in an experiment at Northwick Park Hospital in London, England in 2006. Laboratory monkeys were given the same drug 500 times more than that of a human, which only received 1 dose. Monkeys did not have the horrible side effects that the humans did. Medical Research Modernization Committee, or MRMC, has said that monkeys which have been infected by laboratory experiments have also infected humans, 16 laboratory workers, and have killed them. There have been 2 Ebola outbreaks in America from American monkey colonies. Furthermore, they also say that there is evidence that monkey experimentation has spread the HIV-1 virus. Today I talked about how millions of animals are used and acquired, how they are treated during experiments, and how these experiments are unreliable and costly. As you can see, this is an issue that not only affects animals, but it also has dangerous and deadly consequences for humans.
Okay, you're going to have to wait a second because apparently Andrew's not here.
Did anybody not get the roll sheet?
All right, the visualization that you have at the start is okay, but you kind of shift in a dramatically different direction, and that's designed to startle the audience and draw their attention to the topic. I like that you've got some personal reasons that you want to talk about this. The transition to your subject is a little problematic. You sound like you're on the brink of doing a persuasive speech and arguing that there is a problem here, that these things are ineffective, and you're really making a claim more than sharing information. Because there's definitely a perspective here, a point of view, especially when you start talking about whether or not the animal experimentation is producing any results or whether or not they're applicable. If you're simply describing the way animals are used in the process or the things that they go through, I think that would have been a little bit less persuasive in nature, and maybe you could have stuck to the informative territory. I think that you need a clearer structure. At the end of the speech, I heard in your summary something that sounds like a review that suggests that there was a structure there, but I didn't really get a very clear preview at the beginning. There may have been a sentence that covered all those points, but they weren't numbered, and during the speech they weren't signposted very clearly. So I think that material tends to run together, and sometimes you're dropping in an example or a visual, and it seems like it's a very abrupt shift in what the subject was from just a second before. So I think there's some organizational issues here that need some work, and definitely if there is a structure, you need clear transitions so that it's easier to follow. Some of the information is definitely interesting, and I think that you've got a couple of examples that you refer to. I'm not sure why you picked the particular examples that you talked about. You mentioned the flower pot thing, for instance. I'm going, okay, well, I'm trying to figure out what they're studying with the mouse in the flower pot and he's going to fall in the water. I don't get any explanation. There's no context on it. Is this a test that's used frequently in a whole variety of experiments, or was this a particular kind of experiment? It just seems to be out of nowhere hanging there. Some of the sources that you cited, I think, are a little bit problematic. I would be careful about citing the Animal Liberation Front. It's the equivalent of citing Al-Qaeda. They're a group of terrorists, basically, who have they've blown up and burned down buildings, and I'd be careful about citing an organization like that, for credibility purposes. Some of the other sources, I think, they have a point of view, but they also have some authority behind their research, and so I'd be, you want to explore some of that information. That's iffy. The visuals are integrated into the speech pretty well, although a couple of times it seemed like it's just that isolated piece of information, and you need to, like I said, fit it into the material a little bit better. I needed a source citation for the Ebola and the HIV information that you had at the end, for instance. You're saying we've had 2 outbreaks of Ebola that are a result of this monkey research, and maybe HIV has been spread by monkeys, and I'm going, okay, so where did this information come from? Why should I believe this? That was just one of those examples. All right, thank you.